Josh and I each have our own rental. I had a ton of interest in the listing. I was able to get the top level rent. I just followed the formula, did it again, and have tenants in place as of June 1st, and that's also going well. So I went from one house to three in less than 6 months.
Welcome back to this week's episode of the Lady Landlords Podcast. Today, I have Brooke joining me. Brooke is actually a member of the Lady Landlords community, and we're here to dive into what she's been doing in real estate and how this can also help you grow your rental portfolio. Brooke, how you doing?
I'm great, Becky. So glad to be here.
Why don't you just share a little bit about who you, Brooke, the woman, is outside of real estate before we dive into that?
Sure. So I am a divorced mom of two, and I'm in Florida. And so I'm just living the good life here. We're getting rained on. It's been a monsoon after weeks and weeks of drought.
Right. I feel like that's all over the news, just like the flooding, like how bad it's been in Florida lately. But you guys are okay?
Yeah, we're good.
All right. Well, good. Well, hopefully it goes back to just like the 4 p.m. showers, right, that you guys get every day. But I'm happy to hear that you guys are all safe. So let's talk real estate here. So real estate was something that is still kind of newer that like you've kind of entered. What made you say, you know what I should do on top of being a mom of two, having a full-time job, but you know what I should do? Have rental properties. What made that idea come to you?
So really it was the process of rebuilding after the divorce and feeling like I was behind the eight ball in terms of retirement planning and being prepared. And when Josh came into our lives, and he's now my boyfriend almost 4 years, it just felt like a natural progression. So we kind of stumbled into the investment side of it.
Was it you that started to kind of mention rental properties? Was it Josh that kind of mentioned it? How did that come about?
I gave him the nudge, like, hey, there's a lot of potential on your property if we were to renovate it and make it more modern, and kind of putting that idea in his head that, hey, you could rent this. And, because I had to really sell him on moving so far away. We were about 45 minutes apart from each other,
Mm-hmm.
and he's super close to his job. So I had to find some way to sell him on the idea.
I don't know of that commute, right? To say,
Yeah.
well, hey, you're going to commute. So you kind of like threw it a little bait of some money here, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And you won, right? You got what you wanted here. So
Yep.
what made you even say that, right? You and Josh both owned your own homes. Now he's like moving in with you. Why wasn't the option just like, cool, you're going to move in here. This is my home where my kids are. Cool, Josh, sell it.
I knew he had an attachment to that house, and long
Yeah.
term, the idea of keeping it, whether it was for his mom to be a snowbird down here or some other reason, just in case, I think for his peace of mind that he still had that asset and didn't
Right.
have to give it up as part of that relationship was important to him.
Right. I love that you thought about that and really made the great decision for the two of you, for your family, of what that would look like. So you mentioned there, though, that he would have to then rehab his place, right? Kind of modernize it a little bit. And I've seen the pictures of it, so I know what you're talking about. How was it doing that work and you two working together to make those upgrades to the house?
We struggled a little bit. I mean, we were both working, and he was in a position where he can't manage a rehab due to the nature of his job. So it was a project for me, and I think we were fairly lucky, but we did have some contractor struggles. But it was enough to get a taste of what that was like, and we really enjoyed it. And I think even though his part was less in the process, it opened his eyes up to the potential.
Okay. Did you guys do some of that work yourselves? Did you hire out for that?
No, we hired contractors to do all of it. We started with hurricane impact windows all the way around. And then when the windows were done, we decided to gut the entire house.
That's a big project for kind of an undertaking here. What was it like, not only finding contractors, but having that relationship, managing those contractors to get that stuff done, especially with the full gut rehab?
It took a lot longer than it should have, to be honest. We learned along the way, and we got through it. But I think now we've learned so much that we know we would pull the plug on a contractor a lot sooner, and we would vet them a lot better on the front end.
Okay.
So
What would you have done differently to vet the contractor now?
I think we would have dug a little bit deeper into the business license, the insurance, some of those technical things, finding out that your contractor had a lot of legal issues and wasn't necessarily using their own business license. That was a big deal.
Yes, that is not good. But either way, it worked out, got through the work, and then had that. At what point there did you find the Lady Landlords Facebook group? Do you remember?
Yeah, when we were about to rent out the house, I was scrolling on Facebook and joining all kinds of groups and really just felt like I needed somebody to take me under wing because I think at that point when you are handing over the keys to a house and all that liability, I work in the insurance industry on the healthcare side, but I knew that it was important to get the right kind of insurance, but I didn't know what questions to ask. And I feel like when we were scrolling and looking at all these Facebook pages, your page really resonated with me because it was all about female empowerment and there was the whole process of other women helping each other out. And I just felt really drawn to your Facebook group.
Oh, that makes me really happy. You know, as a person that's run the group now for years, I put out the things that are like important to me or the things that I want to say, but I rarely get that feedback back about what somebody enjoyed. Sometimes people enjoy things that I write. Sometimes people don't enjoy my jokes, and that's okay. So that just really makes me happy. And then you ended up joining the Inner Circle program, also right when you were ready to rent that out. What made you then say, like, cool, I'm in this Facebook group. Now let me kind of go a step beyond and join the mentorship program?
It was a little bit of a trust leap, but it was also just hearing you say that there was a process that debunked the myth that you have to have all your ducks in a row before you do real estate investing. We didn't have the answers, we didn't have a strategy, and we were going to be stuck in that what's next, what do we do situation. Your program really offered an opportunity to give us structure and confidence to know
Oh,
that we didn't have to have it all together on the front end, that we could figure it out and learn as we go.
that's funny because that reminds me of being at a gym, right? And you have your personal trainers that are kind of walking around. And I remember that I was talking to this personal trainer there, and I was like, well, I want to go with personal training, but I need to get in better shape so that I can work out with you. And he was kind of like, lady, I think you're doing this backwards. He's like, the reason you want to work with a coach or trainer is because that's what we're supposed to get you to. Otherwise, if you're going to continue to do this on your own, he's like, how long have you been doing that? I'm like, well, I'm almost 40. He was like, okay, so you've been doing this for a while. Why don't we speed up a little bit of that learning curve? And if we knew how to do all the things, then we probably wouldn't need the support, right? So I'm glad that you said, okay, hey, let's not be stuck in this cycle. Let's be able to move forward. So, and that was actually almost a year ago. I'm just realizing that was actually really cool. So, first thing we had to do when we started working together was get that house rented. What was it like going through and finding your first tenant and now placing them in a house that you just did all this work and spent probably a lot of money being able to rehab and put together and blood, sweat, and tears dealing with that contractor?
Super easy. Uh, I think, the picture sold the property itself, and you helped us tweak the listing so that it was legal, but also grabbed attention. And I feel like it really came together super naturally.
And how's that been with that tenant over the past year?
I would say they've been great tenants. We've chosen to put a lot of money back into the property,
Mhm.
upgrading the sprinkler systems and things to keep the dust down from the backyard. And also, we've had a couple windstorms that damaged the fence gates that got really expensive. So it'd be unfair to
Yeah.
say it's been profitable, but it's been a really good experience and we would have had those expenses regardless. So now
Right.
somebody else is paying for them.
Right. I hear what you're saying, but still, now if you have that tenant there, and if it's going well with the tenant, and they're happy and not causing a ton of problems, and if they're paying on a regular basis, that's allowing you to do a lot of those upgrades. And like you said, if you were going to do that, if you were living in that property, you still would have done it. But now you have somebody else really helping with the burden of that cost, right? Like, yes, we'll have to upgrade, sprinkler systems down the line as a capital expenditure here, but it's not like that's a consistent like cost that you're going to have. That's something that now it's an upgrade. Now that's taken care of, and that's now extra value to that property as well. And now kind of on to the next thing. Well, good. So you got tenant set. Then now it was time to look into another property. Do you remember what steps you took to start looking into what the next rental property was going to look?
Yeah, we had no idea where we wanted to invest. We
So
had
yes, you do
literally
remember.
no idea. We both don't have a lot of family, so there wasn't any anchors anywhere to piggyback off of. And we knew that we didn't want to be in Florida because the cost of living is going up so quickly.
Right.
The insurance costs, the property taxes are huge unknowns. And if you buy a property that somebody has had homesteaded for a long time, that property tax bill could really shock you and eat into all that cash flow. So we made a concerted effort to look outside of Florida and below the Rust Belt because we didn't want to deal with frozen pipes. So that was really our only criteria. We didn't have a plan.
Right. In the program, we talked a little bit about like a structure and kind of how to do that market research. And you identified a place that really made sense to you. What was it like going through that exercise and then now finding a place that you said, hey, this area might actually work for us?
I think we thought we were crazy. I'm not even sure you were sold on the market to begin with, but
It's an interesting choice.
yes. But we also didn't want to go where everybody else was. We didn't want a high cost of living market. We didn't want to go where there was going to be so much competition that we weren't going to feel successful right off the bat. So we chose Birmingham and we're actually really happy with that.
Yeah. What I loved about that was that I remember when you and Josh drove out there to go look at places. And that was then when I felt much more comfortable with it because I felt like it was in your zone of comfortability at that point in time, where it was still something that you could get to. It was still a drive away. It fit a lot of the criteria that you were looking for, but it was something that you could actually physically go out there and still see, which I knew was important to you. What was it like now, all of a sudden, driving to Alabama to go look at rental properties? Now, all of a sudden, we're going to Birmingham. I mean, had you even been to Birmingham before?
Neither of us had, but we just looked at it like another vacation. Josh loves to road trip. He's a huge car guy, so anywhere he gets to drive, he loves to go. And we made the best of it. And we had already contacted realtors and contractors. So we had a couple appointments lined up when we got to Birmingham. And we just enjoyed it. It was fun to learn a new city, and it did not seem insurmountable.
Right. Do you feel that you would have needed to go there in person? Or do you feel like you would have been comfortable at this point in time just saying, like, great, I could do this from a long distance and a virtual perspective?
I think 100% it was worth the effort to meet contractors. And we actually ended up going twice. The first set of realtor and contractor that we met with didn't work out.
Hmm.
When we met our now team, we went out to dinner with them and we spent a lot of time getting to know them. And that has made all the difference in the world in getting that
Yeah.
contractor to go be the boots on the ground to look at other properties for us, for the realtor to call me when he has a pocket listing or something like that. It's really been more of a familial relationship with these guys than
Yeah.
just a business relationship. And they've both mentioned how much they appreciated the fact that we came out, we took them to dinner, and we told them what our future plans were.
I think that is important to have that face to face time. And I'm happy that you went and did that, especially talking about how you felt that there were things with that first contractor on Josh's property that just didn't really kind of work out. Sometimes those things kind of linger with us, right? And we're like, hey, like this went bad this time. I'm not going to do this again. So I feel like part of that drive out there and really being able to meet people face to face, shake hands, get to know who they were, also probably made you a little bit more comfortable and confident with the decisions and the people that you were picking to add to your team. So I'm glad that now I feel like you can kind of put aside and be like, no, now I have a great team. And it sounds like you'd probably be a little bit more comfortable if one of them called you now and said, hey, Brooke, there's this great place. It's down the street. I could show it to you virtually, but you got to put an offer in today. I feel like now you might be like, cool, sight unseen, I can really kind of do that compared to where you were a year ago.
Absolutely.
So you said that the first realtor and contractor that you met with the first time you went out didn't work out. What happened there?
So they were a husband and wife team that sold themselves as working frequently with out of state investors. But I feel like we needed to go through that experience and we needed to go through a couple different offer situations with them to understand their perspective of not wanting to be burned out, not wanting to go look at 5, 6, 7, 8 houses and be able to really do the math quicker. And so some of that was on us as well, just not
Okay.
being as informed, being open to not specific enough of a market. And when we really dialed that in and could speak more from an educated perspective about the local neighborhoods, we had the respect of the next realtor that much quicker.
Gotcha. Now, how did you find then the second realtor?
Honestly, it was through Facebook reaching out and one
Yeah.
of the investor groups from Birmingham, but we did a much better job vetting them. So Josh and I both spoke to him. We asked a lot more questions. And then we were very upfront, like, hey, we're new at this. It's going to require a lot more time upfront, but we have a long-term plan. And he's actually also a newer realtor. He's only been in real estate 3 years.
Yeah.
And he understood he's a dad of 3 kids and he's hustling too, so he was happy to put in the effort, and it's just been a really good match so far.
I love that you mentioned that. The reason for that is because I feel like you hear all the time, not only do we need to find a realtor that's the most experienced, the top of their market, they have to be investors themselves, they have to work exclusively with investors, right? And it's like, okay, fine, but sometimes, and we talk about this in the inner circle, you really have to think about what like is important to you, what your values are. I know I always say that like mine is really responsiveness. I really, my team members, one of the things they can be the best or the worst, but like if they're the best and they still don't respond back to me, I'm sorry, that really isn't the best. To me, that might be different to somebody else. But I love the fact that you really kind of matched up what is important to us. And I love the fact that you found somebody that was absolutely capable, absolutely competent at their job, but really kind of understood a little bit more of like family life and that there were other things that kind of happened in the world and really kind of matched up to a person that just vibed right and in your gut just felt good to work with for you and Josh. I think that's a really cool and important thing to kind of point out rather than just being like, well, some investor forum told me I have to use Sally, so I don't really like Sally, but I guess I'll use her, right? That's not a pleasant experience. And it sounds like that's kind of what's made this not just a friendship, but kind of a little bit of a family for you in Birmingham.
Yeah, and I think too, it's a valid point. The very high level career realtors aren't as available to a beginning level investor. So it was
Right.
important to us that we didn't necessarily shoot for the top of the cream of the crop, and we got somebody that was on our level that was going to grow with us.
Right. And sometimes the newer people are the people that are a little bit more willing to work with someone that's also new. And it sounds like you guys probably helped each other like navigate something that was a little bit new and a little bit different. So I think that's great. But sometimes the people that are newer, we still want to make sure that they know their things and that they are competent, which I know you did that. But it sounds like that was also a good fit for somebody that was willing to kind of go the extra mile, take that extra step with you guys because they were new. Sometimes you end up talking to a realtor. I watch, oh, what's that show on Bravo? Million Dollar Listing, right? And it's like, cool. Well, if I'm going to go, like, I'm not going to be working with Ryan Serhan. Like, he's going to put me with a person on his team. He's not the one that's going to be showing me around properties or walking me through that. By working kind of with that top person, you end up with somebody on their team. And if you vet the top person, you also have to vet the person that's kind of assigned as the agent to work with you. And they might not be the same level or same reputation as kind of that top dog there. So I'm glad you found such a great fit.
Thank you.
So now you got your realtor. Now, where did the contractor come into play? Did the realtor introduce you to your contractor?
He did. He had just
Yeah.
finished rehabbing a property that the realtor listed, and the contractor shared a bunch of videos with me, the before and afters, and his work was just really well done, and his videos were well done, and I knew that if I was going to be in a hard money loan and needing to document, that he was going to be able to capture those videos for the hard money lender to get those draws. I really liked him, and he was kind of funny and just very personable and also just ready to do whatever it took.
Nice. I love that. Okay. So now we kind of got a team here. So what was it like now working with this realtor, looking at properties this time around? How did that experience go?
We actually ended up finding a property that was through New Western, so a wholesaler, and didn't use the realtor on the deal, which felt awful at the time. But he was aware of what our longer term strategy was, and he was going to either help me list it on the back end or help me rent it, and knew that he would get a fee on the back end. So he was
Mhm.
very gracious. And then the contractor was super easy to work with. And he set the expectation that this was going to be 45-day turnaround. It ended up taking much longer than the 45 days. We ran into some major problems with the good old boy inspectors in Alabama. So we
Mhm.
ended up having to do almost an entire rewire of the house. So it took some time, but he didn't charge me any more on the labor costs. I just had to pay materials on that extra, and it felt like he was really fair working with us,
Mhm.
knowing that, again, he wanted to work with us again in the future, and he said, "You treat me like more than just a contractor, and I
Right.
will move mountains to get this done."
Right. And that's what I think is kind of beautiful about when you find an area and a market that's going to work for you. We kind of want to stay like in that hub. So once again, that's something that you can really talk to repairmen, handyman, contractors, realtors, and say, hey, listen, I'm looking for a long-term relationship, right? And really kind of saying like, this is something that I plan on doing again. How can we work together and kind of build that? So I'm glad you threw that out there sooner than later and worked with that person to be able to do that. So I want to go back here to wholesaler. What was it like working with a wholesaler and buying a property from a wholesaler rather than a realtor for the first time?
Well, I think the theme here is that I'm not very risk averse. So it's just jump in and figure it out was more my motto. It was a little unnerving because I'd heard in that particular market not so great things about the wholesalers. They might take your deposit, but they're still trying to shop it for a better contract. But everything worked out very well. We actually had lunch with the agent that was on the wholesale deal when we went to Birmingham the second time,
Well,
and we're still in contact looking at properties probably once a day.
that's fantastic. So somebody
Mhm.
else that you were really able to add to your team, right?
Yep.
And that's great that now you have a realtor that's really identifying properties for you, and then also the wholesaler that's identifying properties for you. And then once again, everybody can kind of still work together to support your and Josh's journey forward. So
Yep.
I like that. Then this was also a first time now going through a hard money lender. What was that experience like?
Terrifying. Even
Tell me
with
more.
all of the research and calling all the lenders and the spreadsheets, I felt like I just didn't really understand. I learned very
Mhm.
tactfully by doing and going through the process. So, I didn't really understand that this was going to be more like a bridge loan and that I'd have to refinance again. And trying to understand that even when I refinanced, that it wasn't like you could just pull all the money back out and start over and roll it over, that there has to be the 20 or 30% that you leave in the deal. So it's been a really good education to just rip the band-aid off and dive in and do it. But I picked a really good lender. It was a referral from another real estate group that a colleague of mine is in,
Mhm.
and they're Jacksonville based real estate group. And even though I'm not in Jacksonville, they were like, you can join our Facebook page because it's a really good community. And that's where I found the lender, and they're out of California. So they have a little bit of a laid back attitude. Their process for getting those draw submissions is a lot.
Well, I mean, all the states that you're kind of really talking about here and working with are a little bit more laid back than those of us up here in the Northeast. So I could definitely see that. But I find this to be such a juxtaposition from where you were at the beginning, where you said that we felt like we had to have all of our ducks in a row before we were able to move forward. And then you said that you realized, especially joining Lady Landlords, that we don't have to have everything perfect. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. We just kind of had to move. And now it sounds like kind of later in the story here, you're kind of like, yeah, we jumped in, we knew we would figure it out. What was that shift for you to say, okay, you know what? We moving forward?
The end of my Lady Landlord's inner circle. Just knowing that I couldn't just sit there forever and be in that mentorship program and not have forward progress. So we really wanted to just dive in and experience it.
Which you did. Which you did. And then when did you close?
February 15th,
Tell us about the property. What did you pick up?
3 bedroom, 2 bath, 2 car garage. It's a like a ranch style. It's a gorgeous lot. and it was uninhabitable. So it was also a total gut rehab, heavy rehab.
Mm, okay. You said the rehab took a lot longer than you thought it was going to. Also a theme I've heard here, right? And that's once again, contractors, shocking that contractors took longer than expected. I'm sure nobody else in Lady Landlords has ever had that experience. But you mentioned that it was a lot with like the building inspectors and such that kind of caused that problem. What was it like now doing a rehab on a place that you can't just drive 30, 45 minutes to go see, to go check on in a different state, in a different town?
I think the hardest part for that is there are things that Josh and I probably could have done ourselves on a weekend that we weren't able to do. So
Right.
maintaining the lawn and cutting back the shrubs and some of the easy repair work, we weren't able to do ourselves. So we had to rely heavily on our contractor and realtor network to farm those pieces out. But it worked out, and in 90 days we were done. And I thought I was going to list it for rent, but with interest rates having gone up and this one, I think that the taxes were fully exempt in 2024. So I knew the escrow was going to take a hit in 2025, and that would cut into the cash flow even more. We well exceeded the appraisal target from what we set out for. And so we're going to flip it and sell it. And it's gone on the MLS today.
Aw, that makes me so happy. Okay, good. So hopefully this is like good universe real estate day then, that we're having this conversation about that as that goes on. So, all right, you're gonna have to update me on where that goes from there. Okay, so on the market. And are you using the realtor that you had mentioned before that you ended up not using to purchase a house since you went with the wholesaler? Are you using then that realtor to sell the house?
Yes. Yes. It's his listing.
And isn't that cool how that comes full circle?
Yep.
Right? And I love that you and Josh also had the loyalty to say, "Hey, this was the right person for us. Cool, deal worked out differently than kind of expected it on the front end, but this is still our guy. This is still the person we're gonna use for that." And I'm sure that really meant a lot to him, Brooke, that you did remember him, you did stay in touch, you did use him, and you did follow through on your word with that, especially knowing that he was a person that you vetted and felt comfortable with. I love it.
Yeah. It's
All
all
right,
come together really well.
nice. Where do you go from here next?
So there was a partnership conversation that we were having during the inner circle, and that has now come to fruition. So my partner was let go from his large accounting firm. So he's no longer
Mm.
a partner, and he's taking that monetary event that happened, his cash windfall, and he's investing with me. So yes, we've gotten our articles all drafted. We have an attorney. We have a CPA that we're using, and we've had a standing call for the last week to review properties, and I'm getting him kind of up to speed on how I've evaluated that market. And for example, we had a wholesale property that we didn't want to pull the trigger on, but we used that as the deal to walk together and look at the numbers and dissect it so that he gets more comfortable with my process.
Yeah.
And he's ready to go. We're ready to make an offer as soon as we find the right property.
Fantastic. And staying in Birmingham.
Yep. And flipping.
Right. You have a great team there. I am so happy that came full circle, right? We had talked about using this person as that private lender that was in a position. Interesting layoffs. I feel like it's kind of the theme that I keep hearing about this summer. I'll be honest. And I really love not just him, but just so many other women that are really saying we need to start doing something to have a safety net, right? Because layoffs, unfortunately, I feel like I'm hearing like every week somebody else I know is getting laid off. Actually, we're recording here on a Friday. This was like the first week I have not heard of somebody getting laid off. So, but I love the fact that more and more people are realizing we can't always count on corporate America to take care of us, and we need to start really creating extra income sources. But it sounds like now he's actually a little bit more of an active partner in this with you. And I think that has really great potential for you to be able to grow here. So
Yeah,
that's
we're very
awesome.
excited. Yeah.
Congratulations. All right. So
Thank
we're
you.
already looking at other properties. We got one to sell, looking for the next flip, ready to make offers, everything kind of lined up there. That's fantastic, Brooke.
Yeah, and we also purchased a new primary. So Josh and I moved in the middle of May when all of this was coming together, and I rented out my primary. So now
Right.
Josh and I each have our own rental. I had a ton of interest in the listing. I was able to get the top level rent. I just followed the
Mm.
formula, did it again, and have tenants in place as of June 1st, and that's also going well. So I went from one house to three in less than 6 months.
Right. That's amazing. So you went back through the Lady Landlords portal to go do your listing for now your rental?
Yep.
I love that you use that. I love that you still use that. And that's exactly what that's there for. So I'm happy that you did that. So now I got that rented. So now you have the 3 properties. You got 2 rented, 1 ready to flip in 6 months. And then now it's only June now. Let's see what you can do by the end of the year. I love it, Brooke.
We'll see. Part
Yeah.
2.
So the other thing that I want to ask you about is that during the inner circle, you did something that I thought was really kind of cool during that time. You had a little bestie in that group, Ms. Lena, that was also a part of the inner circle. Talk to me about that relationship a little bit. What was it like to kind of find somebody? You guys really connected, became accountability partners, even within our small group already. What was it like to have your BFF now, your real estate BFF?
It's honestly the best thing, and no offense to your program, but it's the best thing that came out of that because,
Good.
we were both doing a little bit of analysis paralysis and feeling stuck. And I feel like having that separate sidebar accountability check-in every day allowed us a safe space to just say, does this make sense? Are you tracking? What is your immediate goal and how can I help you accomplish yours? And then in return, you can help me with my next step. Lena has a lot more properties. So I felt like she was experienced in a different way and had a
Yeah,
different perspective. And then some of it is just more psychology, right? The psychology of having a partner and somebody that's in the thick of it with you.
right.
But to this day, we have a standing call on our Google calendars and we check in every day.
That's what I want people to get out of the program. I want people to build those relationships, to have those partnerships, to realize that one, they're not alone in this, but to be able to find that person that can be their real estate buddy, that they really can have those conversations and go a little bit deeper with somebody in that sense. And I think that's absolutely amazing. You guys haven't met in person yet, have you?
No, but there's an invite extended, so we'll see.
Yay. All right, good. It's either that or I'm going to have to find a way to facilitate you two getting together because I think that's fantastic. But no, that made me really happy that you two really connected in a way as friends and within, once again, real estate and said, hey, what can we really do to kind of team up, partner up? It doesn't have to be an exchange of money. It doesn't have to be purchasing a property together, but you guys are still partners. And I love that. I really did enjoy just seeing that friendship between the two of you. So I'm glad you found that person. I'm glad that you guys are still continuing that through. That was one of the reasons I asked because I wanted to make sure that was still happening. So Lena, shout out to you. We miss you in the inner circle, but I'm glad you and Brooke are still working together. So that's awesome. So you might have to give us an update now in a couple months on what's going to happen. I want to see what's going to happen between now and the end of the year for you.
Hopefully big things.
Yeah, I think so. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming on, sharing your story with our community here. So, Brooke, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time just to share your journey. I know sometimes that's hard, but trust me, there are other women that are listening to this that are like, great, I can do that. I can take that leap. I can move forward. Let me put that offer in. And that's really inspirational. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
For all of our Lady Landlord listeners out there, please do make sure to hit that subscribe button so you do not miss the next episode of the Lady Landlords Podcast. We release new episodes every single Tuesday. And since I know you enjoyed today's episode, please do make sure to leave us a 5-star review. That helps other women that are looking for help with their rental properties also find our channel and be able to get the support that they need and stories like Brooke's today. Thank you so much, and we will see you next week for the next episode of the Lady Landlords Podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Lady Landlords Podcast. If you're feeling stuck in your real estate investing journey, visit lady-landlords.com to book a 15-minute orientation call with me and see if you're ready to join our mentorship program. Or you can subscribe to our newsletter and join our Facebook group for exclusive real estate investing tips and offers. Invest with confidence. Become a Lady Landlord today.